and welcome back to Newfoundland and Labrador Studies 2205. This is Unit 3, The Country Grows, Section 4, Lesson 4, Video 2, on Effects of the Great War. Firstly, we're going to talk about the social effects. There were far-reaching social changes in Newfoundland and Labrador from the First World War. 12,000 men left their homes to serve overseas, more than one-fifth of the population, and 35% of men ages 19 to 35. Many men came back physically or psychologically injured. Shell shock, as it was referred to at the time, affected many. During the war, the loss of so many young men affected the people left behind. Families had to take on the jobs and chores of those men who had left, including women and the elderly. Fatalities suddenly left children fatherless, and deprived some elderly parents of help and support from their adult sons. Many had difficulty readjusting to civilian life and finding work. This was especially difficult for younger men who went off to war right out of school. To help ease the transition, the government established the Civil Re-establishment Committee with 3 goals. They were to help restore injured men to the best possible state of health, to provide men with vocational training if needed, and to place veterans in suitable jobs. The sacrifice of many Newfoundlanders had not gone unnoticed internationally either. The Trail of the Caribou, along with the Beaumont Hamel Newfoundland Memorial, marks the sacrifice of those who lost their lives during that particular battle, especially to those who have no marked grave. Now let's talk about the political effects. Although all political parties rallied to support war efforts, party issues led Prime Minister Morris to form a national government in 1917, which is essentially like a coalition of all parties, so it was them working towards a common goal instead of having an opposition. Conscription was also a national issue, and the Military Service Act was implemented in May of 1918. Conscription means mandatory service. Morris resigned in December of 1917, and this blurring of parties and lack of continued leadership from Morris led to political instability. Preceding governments in the 1920s were short-lived, so much so that between 1919 and 1924, 6 different prime ministers held office. Public discontent and political scandals were rampant. Finally, let's talk about economic effects. The wartime economic boom was temporary. In 1914, the public debt was $30.5 million, with money having to be borrowed during the war, increasing the public debt to $43 million. So even though there was a lot of economic growth, there was still a greater amount of debt because of war effort spending. By 1918, almost a quarter of the colony's revenue had to be used for interest payments. And when veterans returned, the government had to pay their pensions as well as rehabilitation services. Between the after effects of the war and the Great Depression, which happened in the 1930s, Newfoundland was in serious financial difficulty in that decade. And in 1933, the colony reached out to Great Britain for help, which led to commission of government and ultimately Confederation. So now it's time to review. There's another documentary video for you to watch in Brightspace and a portfolio activity. So I will let you get to those, and I hope you have a great day.